I grew up in Denmark, in Helsingør more specifically. And as a young adult, I was a rock and roll bass player in a band there, and sort of working and going to college, 1 year one, 1 year the other one. And at one point, I decided I was tired of both, or not really, but I took off to India. There was something exciting going on in India, and I went to India to visit and ended up staying a long time, close to 5 years, living there. And met my ex-wife there and came back here to LA with her. And went to school, became a chiropractor, worked as a chiropractor and as a teacher. And more recently, I tried to open my own school, and the timing was wrong. I got caught in the middle of cutbacks and all that kind of stuff. So long story short, I lost everything. And I live up the creek in a nice condo. I think it's very nice. I lived there for 10 years. And what happened was that when the bank told me they were going to take my home, to me home is very important. I have to have a pet. It's one of those things. I can handle a lot of things, but being homeless is something that's more scary than cancer or anything else to me. So it freaked me out, and at one point I came down to the creek here where we are and felt sad and nostalgic and sentimental, and regressed and went down to the water to say goodbye to the creek and pet the rocks and feel the water one last time. That was sort of the feeling. And I picked up a couple of rocks, and they looked interesting, so I put them together. That made them look even more interesting, and I kept going for a couple of hours. And there was these funny little sculpture I had built, and I realized that for 2 hours I had not been worried. I had not felt any kind of anxiety or anything. I'd been absolutely fine. So I came back the next day to repeat, and it really got in my blood, and I kept doing it every day. And people came by, gave me nice feedback, told me how they liked the work and so on, and that was of course very nice too. So between just the physical exercise, the creative outlet, and having a place to put my energy, it's been great therapy. And in fact, where we sit now is the second site. I did half a mile, an exhibition or project half a mile long up further up the creek, and I ran out of rocks. It was all done and finished, so I had not planned to do anything more when I came by here, and I saw this lovely granite being spilled down the creek side here, and couldn't resist getting off the bike and going down and putting a few of them together and see what it looked like. And so here I am again for the 4th or 5th day in this new location, building rock sculptures. So that is the current situation. That is what's going on right now. And of course it's juleaften, som de siger i Danmark. Merry Christmas to you, Pat. So people come by here and call out nice things like Merry Christmas at a time like this. But otherwise it's usually great job, love your work, and so on. And it goes a long way to make one feel good, and I certainly feel good when I hear it, when I get that kind of response to it. I checked in this morning with the people back in Denmark, and they're covered in ice and snowed in, and can't even get out to do their normal Christmas shopping, not even the food, so they have funny kind of dishes for Christmas dinner tonight. So I'm glad I'm sitting here in the sun and enjoying the warmth and the absence of snow, except the snow on the peaks and the mountains and behind me. I don't know if you can see that with the camera, but they're there. Oh, it's there. Obviously, being at this point in my life, I had expected to be somewhere else than down the creek or up the creek, depending on how you look at it. but that's how things went. It's one thing that I have learned in my long life is that you can be really, really good, you can be conscientious, you can do all those things, you can do everything right, and you still need a fair amount of luck to go with it for the whole thing to turn into something. And I have had not so much luck, I have had what I have coined after luck, and that is the kind of luck that sort of limits the damage. So if your ship goes down, there's a lifesaver so you can make it to land. That is my term. If the plane crashes, you survive it, that's after luck. But anybody would probably agree that would be more lucky not to have those kind of things happen to you. So after luck, and for me, that's what I have here. I pretty much lost everything. Certainly money and all that. My car is taken by the bank. The home is being taken by the bank. And the last thing I would have expected was that something as beautiful as this rock garden I've created was going to be the result of that. And it's been one of the most satisfying things I've done in many, many years. I love being a chiropractor and working with patients and helping people. I love being a teacher and imparting great information to students and see it click in them and see them sort of lighten up in the process of enlightenment. But this is a whole different type of satisfaction because it's very personal, it's very intimate. There's only me and the rocks, no other people involved in that sense. So it's very different, but it's very, very gratifying. And it's a very nice workout. So in the 7 months I've been doing it, I've gotten in better shape than I've been in several years. So that's one of those little benefits I would never have imagined. And of course I promised you I can talk because I'm normally a talker, and one of the things I was famous for was never taking a break in my lectures to go all the way through. The one thing that I pride myself of was that my students didn't notice, and when the bell rings and the students don't get up because they want to hear what's coming next, you're onto something good. You're giving good class. That's usually how I think of myself, and right now I'm not sure exactly where to go with it. Certainly not. I don't have opinions. I have plenty, and usually good for a rant or two at any time I have an excuse. But right now the mind is pleasantly quiet, I guess. I'm considering going back to Denmark. I met some Norwegian guy and he said it's really great over there. It'd be a good idea. So I gave it some thought, and I think I'll give it a try, see what happens. If nothing breaks here the next couple of months in terms of work or opportunities for something exciting or some way of sustaining myself here, I'll probably go over there and see what happens. And at least stay through the summer and see if anything turns up. Take it from there. As far as the rocks go, it's sort of like a sandbox. It's just very, very big sand crystals I'm playing with, but it's of course as earthy as it gets. Rock, and then the water here, it doesn't get any more essential and primal than that. And it's interesting to see how something as inanimate as a rock, but when you put a few of them together, they can really take on a life. And the same 3 rocks have been lying here on the creek bed for years and years and years, and people have passed by and absolutely not noticed. You put them together right, all of a sudden people have deep and profound reactions to it, and even to the point where some people will come and tell me long stories about one particular sculpture I put up. Oh, I saw that, and this what happened, and there were medieval people, and there was somebody burning in the stake, and sometimes complete novels, and it's just 3 rocks put together in a certain way that all of a sudden brings all this out in people, and that I find absolutely fascinating. They all represent some kind of archetype to me. They're all sort of humanoids, and they're a little bit like the Indian kachinas, the spirit dolls, sort of representing the different aspects, from the different aspects of being humans to the gods, the aliens, whatever you want to call these characters. And I have come to feel a certain kinship with them. So, and same with the birds. Birds love the rocks too, so love perching on them. So, and over time, some of them have gotten used to me being here and building, and it's very nice. The other here in the rain the other day, I was erecting this enormous rock, and it was hard for me to balance the second one on top and get it to fit. So I had to sort of kneel down, but be careful not to drop the rock on top of myself. And I'm sitting there trying to look at the facets at the bottom there on the top rock, and all of a sudden I feel this other look, and I turn to the side, and I'm looking straight in this pelican's eye, and it had come and sat down right next to me, and it was sitting staring not at me but into that crack in the rock where I was staring, like it's going, what is in there? What are you looking at in there? And it actually stayed and hung out with me, and of course I couldn't let go of the rock, and I thought, I have my camera in the pocket, but if I stop and let go of the rock, it's gonna drop. And so I finished the job, and the pelican hung out, and I got my camera out and got some really nice shots of it sitting there. And that's the kind of stuff, it only happens when you're out doing things like this. Otherwise, where do you get to experience things like that? So precious moment. And to be lucky enough to get a picture of it, that's really something special. Made my night, that's for sure. And having spent 6 months down here, it's hard to relate to going back to work. It's kind of strange because I haven't paid my mortgage, I haven't paid anything, not a bill. In fact, I did something when I finally had enough of it a couple of weeks back. I took everything that had papers with print that looked remotely businesslike, bank statements, utility bills, even my trust deed for my home, my promissory note, everything that had any connection to that aspect of life. I put it all in a big trash bag, and I dumped the whole thing in the trash. There's not a piece of paper like that left in my house. And afterwards I thought, maybe it's not a good idea, because in court and you can prove, and at least you had the trust deed. But at this point, it's not what matters. It's like time to move on wherever that is, and I'm okay with it now. It was a brief buyer's remorse, but no, I'm glad that my life feels lighter already, even though it's didn't solve any problems, so it hasn't. But it also prevents me from going back and trying to piece it together and make a case for myself. So I'm sort of forced to just move on now. So there was probably some of that drove the action. But it felt good just to heave it into the trash and see it gone. So now I'm living on sort of a day-to-day basis waiting for the sheriff to knock on the door and tell me it's time to leave. And I've talked to people and said, what's that like? I've never been evicted before. And people say all kinds of different things. So I don't know what to believe, so I guess I'll find out when it happens. And that will be the signal to find my way back to Scandinavia and see what happens there. And I don't know if I'll be able to make a living there or pick up or do whatever, but I'm looking forward to seeing family and old friends there and at least having that being part of it. So we'll see what happens. But for right now, right here today, while they are being covered in snow and ice, I am very happy to be here in Los Angeles, in Marina del Rey, on the creek, in the sun, and getting ready for juleaften i aften. Yeah, that's what comes to mind, so I can't think of anything else right now.